Thank you, Haley. I'm so happy that you're all here today. This is amazing. I want to be able to make this session really interesting. So I have a few questions for you in throughout the session. And then if there's questions you have, please put them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end. I just want to let you know, I've been in cyber since 2008. And as a Canadian, I have found that the landscape has really changed. I find that there's a lot to take in and it's somewhat overwhelming. So today I want to be able to give you as much information that you can take to be able to apply what you need to apply for today to just get the ball rolling, or if you are starting some of this, have already started this, to kind of take it to another layer. So what we're going to cover is a little bit more of cybersecurity explained, why this is now an identity crisis. What is that threat landscape that's impacting all of our organizations all across the globe, including yours? What would be some best practices for you to use at work? And then we'll do some Q&As. So let's start with a poll. And Haley's going to pop this up to you. And again, these polls are anonymous. Nothing is going to be shared publicly. This is private, but I want you to be able to answer this for me. How many unknown calls do you get in a day? Now, while you're answering this, I want you to be able to come into this session and have two lenses. One is your professional lens and your personal lens, because the way this landscape has changed since I've been in cyber is that it is now, there's no difference between the personal and the professional life that you lead. The digital landscape that we're in now encompasses both. There's no barriers, there's no borders, there's no, close the phone and then you no longer work, close the laptop, you no longer work. That's no longer existing. You know as well as I do, you can work at 11 p.m. from your bed or from Mexico using your phone, using your laptop, using your iPad. So what we want to talk about today is the fact that you're going to see the blending of how cyber is actually impacting every aspect of your life and your family's life and your professional life. So this is one aspect where I want to be able to see how you're being targeted just by your phone. So there's a good group here today, so I'll wait for everyone to make that answer. So please, everyone, put that in there and even just make a guess if you're not sure. Just want to be able to see where you're at. Okay, the poll is closed now. And 76% of you say you get about 1 to 3 a day. 24% say you get 4 to 6. And then, so basically you're getting at least one every day, right? So that's a large amount when you think about the fact that, maybe even a year ago, that was even foreign to us that we would get an unknown call. So I want you to pay attention to what that means to you, because what I'm finding in my professional world with amongst my professional, security experts, it's hard to say you're an expert nowadays because it changes so fast. So I don't call myself an expert, but amongst my professional peers, we're finding that the fraudsters, these scammers, these hackers are exploiting the trust, the technology, and the emotion. And that's evolving faster than even anyone, any people or company or government or software can keep up with. And what we're finding is that you are the target. You, whatever your role is at your company, you are the target. So let's start with that today, knowing that you are the target, because I have a lot of clients who actually think they're not the target. They think, well, I work for a small company. I am just an HR coordinator, or I'm just a project coordinator, or I'm a project manager, or I'm an HR coordinator. And they kind of put their title as the level of their importance of why they would be or not be a target. So if you are a CEO, or you're an IT manager, or you're a project manager, or you're an HR executive, that doesn't mean you're more important in terms of a target. You're just a different type of target, because you might have access to information that have different value to a criminal. So what do they want? Well, one thing for certain is they want confidential data. Cybersecurity is so crucial, it needs to be part of everyday practice, because the work you touch, you touch high value data every day. So let's start with helping me understand the word PII. PII. If you could help me by looking it up and give me an example of what it is and put it in a chat box. So what is an example of PII? It's called personally identifiable information. So I'll give you a minute, look up what is an example of PII and put it in a chat box. And I'll wait for that answer. And this may be the first time you've heard of this term. If you're in HR, maybe not, or finances, but outside of that, please look it up. Yes, excellent. So social insurance number, correct. Yep. Names, addresses, email addresses, excellent. Date of birth, excellent. IP addresses, really good that you said that, because a lot of people wouldn't think IP address is PII, but it actually is. So for example, if I don't have my location services turned on, I can't use half of the apps because they're relying on finding where I'm located in order for them to provide me the software service. So that's very concerning when you think about it, right? Medical records, perfect, exactly. Biometric data, fingerprints, facial recognition, exactly. So you see, the layers of PII are pretty broad, but they're very specific. You know, when you're like, I'm Métis, my family's Métis, so obviously that's PII to me. I'm Métis, right? I'm Canadian, PII. But also the very specifics like facial recognition, medical records, health records, financial records, tax records, online username, right? Your credentials, and even your employer. Some people don't even know that your employee ID is PII, right? So it goes pretty vast, but when you're looking at your workplace, you can see how many points of data are confidential, they're valuable, and you have to protect them, right? Because by law, privacy law within Canada, because we're in Canada, we have to protect them under PIPEDA or PIPA, depending on what province you're in, but there's federal laws and there's provincial laws. So what we're up against now is that the hackers, the organized criminals, they want that valuable data. Now, these hackers are sophisticated. I compare them to El Chapo. I really do. They are terrorists on every level. They run an enterprise that is about, they run an enterprise that is so sophisticated you and I could barely understand. And we don't need to understand. I don't want you to understand just like electricity. You don't have to understand how electricity works, but I need you to understand the magnitude of these criminals. They will not necessarily reveal themselves as hackers and black hat criminals, but they have levels of sophistication where they have money, they have resources. They're supported somewhat by nation state, like they're called nation state, so they're supported by government. They have an endless amount of money, and they have an endless amount of, let's say, permissions to be able to do the crime that they're doing. So turning a blind eye to their criminal activity, or they're so overpowering they can't necessarily be stopped. So we have varying levels of criminals out there, but at the end of the day, their main goal is to steal from you. Now, why would they steal from you? Well, because you have valuable data. So their goal is they're trying to hunt for that data, and then they want to sell it. So this is incredible money to them. And the access for them is becoming easier and easier. So when we look at what you do every day, I have another poll for you. And Haley, if you'll pop that up, what PII do you handle every day? Now, input whatever you think you handle every day, and it might not be every day, maybe it's weekly, but at the end of the day, that PII that we discussed, be surprised at how many parts of that you handle in a given week, regardless of the role that you're in. So some of you are putting HR information, account information, client records, personal data, bank account information. Excellent. SIN, date of birth, email addresses, participants' names. Excellent. Excellent. Immigration information. Excellent. Keep them coming. And those are really valuable pieces of data, because you know very well you're not just handling one data point, right? You're handling numerous data points. Driver's license, excellent. Sign-in information, vendor information, yeah. Those are all valuable pieces of information that you have privy to, access to, maybe only privilege access to. So like maybe only you're supposed to handle that data and no one else on your team is supposed to handle it, or your team is only allowed to handle that, but no one else in the organization is able to handle that. Because that depends on how confidential that client information is, right? How confidential that banking information is. Obviously, that's just for one department, not for the whole organization. You see what I'm saying? So that's excellent. You can close that, Haley. Thank you so much. So you can see that you're handling various different types of PII and at varying degrees of value, but you don't know the value of it. Your organization has told you, okay, you're handling banking information. You obviously have one, you're dedicated to that role, you're dedicated to handling that data, but not everyone else is. And then lastly, no one else has access to that, so you have to handle that with care. And obviously, you have compliance, or you have laws, or you have confidential expectations from your company or your clients. So you can see it makes so much sense, right? We don't question any of this. This is how we do work. This is how we do business. But what you need to understand is that people have minimized the amount of confidential data they're handling every day. So that's where I go back to the beginning when someone says to me, I'm not that important. Why would a hacker come after me? Well, you just told me that you're handling banking information. You just told me you're handling client information. And those are all pieces that are remarkably valuable, and they are not necessarily going to be out in the open, right? So this is where we have an identity crisis, because you are the access point to an organization. Because if you have access to that client information, and it's not just one data point, you're handling streams of client data, then that means you'll see that if you're handling that data and you're only allowed to handle that data, but that's confidential data, why wouldn't you be a valuable asset to the company? Well, of course you would, right? So the sooner you realize you're handling critical, valuable data that by Canadian law is considered PII, and by Canadian law, it's considered laws that you have to adhere to, you can see now how the two connect, that you actually are a valuable asset to the company, and now you are a valuable target to the company. So when you're looking at this, we have to remove the old thinking of, I don't have that, I'm not that important, I don't have anything that's of importance, and it doesn't matter. It's actually everything you do now does matter, and everything you do is now accountable. So as you have to protect the company data, because you're handling it, you have to look at it a bit differently, because you know very well as an HR manager, for sure, you know how to protect that. But if you're a project manager and you're handling data, you might not have really thought twice about the fact that you're transferring data points from one document to another, sharing files from one team to another, and then all of these access points of the data, whether it's proprietary or client or vendor, it all becomes a little bit more vulnerable in the way you're handling it, because handling it just within your organization, within the systems you're using, that could be fine. But then you also have to consider that you're transferring it, you're storing it in a way that may or may not be secure, and you're accessing it may be a way that's not secure. So it's very interesting because we haven't had to think so deeply about how are we handling data and how are we sharing data and how are we storing data. But now we have to, because these hackers are coming in and they're trying to target you, and then they're trying to target your identity so they can get access to what you have access to. And even though you may think I only handle one data point that may be valuable, you still have to remember it's a domino effect. One time, once they're inside and they can access everything. So I would love you to know right now you're going to be conned. If you can expect that every day, you could have a different lens in the way you handle your day-to-day workload, your personal life, and everything you handle digitally. The digital literacy needs to be elevated to a level higher than we have right now. We have become a bit complacent thinking we're fine. Companies, software are taking care of it all. But we know 82% of cyber incidences are caused by uninformed employees. Now, it's not intentional. See, that's the thing. It's not intentional. And organizations know this, federal agencies know this. This is why employees are not necessarily getting fired for a mistake they make. They're getting coached and guided. But the thing is the landscape's changing so fast, it's hard for anybody to even go, well, you should have known that. Because the fact of the matter is, we're barely keeping up with the way things are changing, but we're trying to guide you to say, you need to understand this differently. You're handling something crucial that is by law highly valuable and highly confidential. So what do we do about that, right? But how are they doing this, right? So cyber criminals have become incredible con artists. And even though they're wicked and evil on every level, trying to make millions and millions of dollars a month, and they're trying to use a ploy against you to act and touch that emotional human side of us, right? And it's interesting because Microsoft, even though we're all Microsoft shops, most of us, it remains the most frequently imitated brand. Up to 43% of all phishing attempts are done through Microsoft, when it's not actually Microsoft, but it's hackers imposing, saying, oh, we're Microsoft, right? So, but what we're talking about here is crime as a service. Now, I'm just showing you 12 examples. So you will see here we have phishing as a service, and you'll see vishing as a service, right? And then you'll see other examples here that may not, you think, well, that doesn't apply to me, but that's fine. But I want to show you, this is just 12 examples. There's dozens and dozens more. As AI develops, it's going to continually increase their capabilities of scamming and hacking your systems and you. So, when it comes to a Microsoft account, over 75% of targeted attacks begin with phishing emails. So phishing isn't going away. It's a human issue, not a technical one. Smart Dolphins puts in all sorts of filters to prevent business email compromise, to protect you from all the scams they can possibly protect you from. But with the development of AI and the hackers' tools that they use, they easily can come through those filters, unfortunately. So it means that software technology, IT companies are doing their part, but nothing is 100% secure. And now it's become very evident we as humans are becoming a very serious target. And so as an employee, you're going to get random emails, and some of them are so obvious, like this one. You look at the email address, it's wrong. You look at why would you get a link, doesn't make sense. Don't click on it. None of it makes sense because it doesn't add up to a communication that you would have thought viable, right? But that's the problem, is they're doing enough intel now where they can change the level of communication to be able to trick you, to target you exactly in an area that means something to you. So that's where we have to be really aware that, one, if we expect to see this, then we can have different scrutiny in the way we read it. Instead of going, oh, that's my HR department, I best answer that. I best do what they said because it's my HR department. Instead go, am I expecting that from my HR department? And why is that Why are they sending that to me? So you get to, as an employee, ask those questions. You get to be a critical thinker. You get to be digitally literate and go, I'm not going to buy into that. I'm going to say that doesn't make sense to me because I shouldn't have got that, or it doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to delete it. Right? So when we know that within 3 weeks, a new employee is targeted by a hacker, we have to be on guard. We have to, one, protect our new employees, but we have to prepare them. We have to onboard them with proper cybersecurity, basic cyber hygiene, we call it, so they know what to expect. They're so innocent, they have no idea that they're going to get kind of targeted, and they won't even know. They'll be so oblivious that they'll go, well, I guess that's what I have to do because I was asked by my HR manager or by my boss, I'm going to do it. So when we look at phishing, we have to look at the fact is they're going to send you malicious links. We call it malware, and they're going to send it in any which form they can, but usually it's through PDFs or links, right? And that's where they can do damage to your system. And that's how they get into your system, because a malware is like a virus. It's programmed by a hacker to come into a system, and it's programmed to do a certain job, whether it's to steal data, lock down an organization's system, or whether it's to be able to, we call it like scour systems and collect data. Basically, it's really, really sophisticated. It depends on what the hacker wants to do inside your system. And this is the way it gets in your system. Now, again, it's very sophisticated. So you're not going to know, but this message seems really real. So then you would comply because you'd think, well, that seems normal. However, some of these things we are familiar with, but they're changing their tactics all the time. And that's what I want you to be aware of. You may have seen this email and went, oh, I know that's a scam. I'm gonna delete it. But I want you to know it's elevating, and you have to be very diligent to know you're going to be tricked one way or another. And that is kind of bypassing our human psychology. And it's really, really alarming to me. So stolen or compromised credentials are number 2 cause of data breaches. And so when we look at that, we have to go, if you're the primary target and they're trying to steal your credentials to get into your company, what are we going to do to be able to stop that, right? So your phone is an access point now. The data being sold on the dark web, you can't trust who has your data. You just can't. You can't assume, well, that must be real because I do have a Netflix account. No, you can't trust anything anymore. You have to find a way to verify it, because all the data that's being sold on that dark web has some of your personal information, or we actually just give it out for free. When you're filling out a form, you put your phone number. It doesn't actually matter how they have it. You can't ask that question why or how they have it anymore. You just have to say they do have it, because we just talked earlier about how many unknown numbers you're getting a day. That's going to increase because the demand for this is increasing, because there's millions of dollars to be made on the other end. So they're going to keep doing this. You're going to start getting 3 or 4 a day, because this is one way to find you and get you to do what they want you to do. So you can look at this and you can critically think, well, I do have a Netflix account. Maybe my billing payment didn't go through. But that's where I want you to step back and go, okay, I don't know the number. So what? You don't know the number. You wouldn't know a Netflix Canada number. So you can't go, is that true or is not true? But you can go, what if that billing payment was wrong? What do I do? So is this the way you would go through this channel? No. So this is what I'm trying to tell you is, no matter what incoming message is coming your way, you have to, from now on, go to your verified source. That you don't know is a real link, because what we do know now is they can give you verified links that look very official. They know how to do that. So that might look like a real link in every way. Even if this is a text, so you wouldn't even know unless you clicked on it. But the thing is that the fact is you can't answer with 100%, clarity that is actually Netflix texting you. First of all, why would they text you? So do you see where I'm going here is you have to ask yourself a couple different questions. Now I want to show you a video, but I just realized it might not have the sound. Just let me see if I can. I will see if I can play it and see if you can hear it. It's okay if you don't hear it, but. So that's just an example and of just applying the concept of clicking on a link through text. It just happens so fast. The data that you touch, the data that you have can be impacted immediately within seconds. All of the data that's confidential to you can be wiped from you and accessed from you in seconds. Forget about the fact that it happens within your organization. So over the last 12 months, in terms of the threat landscape, 42 organizations have reported cyber incidences in 2024. And 94% of those small SMB, small medium businesses, face cyber attacks in 2024, up 73% in 2023. The cost of a breach is 4.8 million in the average cost in 2024. So these cyber criminals are making a lot of money. They're getting away with this crime, and they're impacting small organizations like you. And it's impacting Canadian organizations all across. So when you look at this, we have First Nations Health Authority, we have Toronto Public Library, Government of BC, London Drugs, and when you Power School. So these are just a few examples of some of the breaches that happen, and all of them were about stealing sensitive information from that organization. And then that information is then sold on the dark web. And so when you know when there's a cyber breach, you might as well just expect it to be the fact that no matter what that cyber breach entailed, whether they had a ransomware attack and they paid the criminals, or whether they had a ransomware attack and didn't pay the criminals, because London Drugs did not pay the criminals, but London Drugs was shut down for 10 days. And they did not comply with that negotiating tactic of paying 25 million. They walked away and said, we're not paying you any. But either way, the ransomware attack and the closure of these companies and the stealing of that data, you can rest assured that those criminals are using it and selling it on the dark web. The criminals, why wouldn't they? They would make money from, Toronto Public Library or First Nations. And if they don't make money, they're going to find another way to make money, and that is to sell it on the dark web. So when you see the cycle of if they steal data and then they can sell on the dark web and then they target you again. So it's a vicious cycle that way. So you can see how sophisticated it is, but how it works. And again, I'm not going to show you the dark web, but that has a whole different vendor system like Amazon, where they sell products like passwords, they sell products like credit cards, they sell all sorts of information there to other nefarious criminals to be able to use for harm. Hence the phone calls you're getting every day. So now when we talk about password security, we've really got to be a little bit more aware of what that means to us, since credentials theft is high and your credentials are what get you into all the software you're using, personal or professional, banking, health, shopping, you name it, depends on what you're using. So the average amount employee reuses software is 13 times. So if you're using the same software in everything in your company, and then you're using the same one in Facebook, and your Facebook gets compromised, you know very well there's no difference, right? It's just one software just goes into domino effect. It goes to another. They have enough resources to be able to go, we found you, we'll find where you work, we'll find what you have access to, and we'll use this password because we know you're going to reuse your password, so we're going to bank on that. So we have to change our password management policy within our company. We have to have a process, we have to have policies, we have to have standards, and we have to use a password manager. And some of you may be using a password manager, and it's going to be that's a really good cyber hygiene practice to use, but everyone in your company needs to use that. And we can't be overwhelmed by that because we're using new software every day. We're using new apps all the time. This is just one step to following good cyber hygiene. And it really doesn't take that long. I mean, it takes a few extra seconds to open up a password manager or securely set up a new password that is new and different and has 12 characters long and is complex, and it's not the same as any other password. But it just takes a little bit more diligence, right? A little bit more effort, but it's just one of those best practices that we follow. Just like you have to brush your teeth every morning, this may be one of those basic requirements that we're asking you to do starting from now on every day. Now, with AI growing, deepfake is a really real issue, and you probably already know how significant that is, that we can't really trust anything that we see, anything that we hear. Visually, it is becoming really overwhelming how we can make fake videos and fake pictures. So there's not necessarily anything in place that we can verify a real image versus a fake image yet, and I will be excited once that happens. But that's how fast software is changing, and yet security is not. So security is on the back end of that, not the front end of that. So this means you as a human, that means the responsibility is on you. But we have also proven humans can't detect a fake image versus a real image. It's like 21% of the time we can detect a fake image. That's very, very low. So, or detect a fake image, sorry. So we aren't adept at it. We're just not, the software is so sophisticated. So that means we have to figure out how to navigate that. And we're going to have to get a lot of guidance and things are going to have to change. But on the front end, we're looking at the fact that AI is changing the way we get phishing campaigns, because phishing emails now are well spelled out, well written, sophisticated, professional. So you can't be tricked by a poor phishing campaign, for a poor phishing email, and the way that they approach you, you can't actually expect it to be poorly done, because this is changing the game of how you're being targeted. And it's also targeting you in ways where if like for example, I have a website and I updated my website and then I added my payment. I paid my payment of my yearly fee. And yet I had an email saying, oh, your payment was short. Click here because you owe a little bit more money. And it was interesting because I'm like, I made that payment in full. And I know I made that payment in full. And yet here I am, a day later, I'm getting this notification. So one could, if you are not on the ball and critically thinking, you would go, oh, okay, maybe I did miss a fee. And you would click on that, right? So they're really coming in really tightly to the things you're actually doing and tricking you in ways that you would least suspect. Luckily, I was like, no, I know that's fake, and I deleted it. But the thing is that's how sly they're coming in. They're really working in ways to trick us in so many subtle ways. So now let's talk about some of the top recommendations that you can kind of apply today to protect your identity, because I think regardless of where you work, regardless of what you do, regardless of what you're handling every day, regardless of the pressures you're under, regardless of the demands, I think what you should walk away with today is you're going to have to protect your identity and everything you touch from this point on. And to take that accountability in a way where you go, you have to be your own human firewall. Everything you touch has to be protected. So anything that you have incoming, you have to look at it differently. We have to know, as much as we want to be a bit flippant about the way we handle our digital life, We have to know passwords matter. They really do matter. Criminals are banking on the fact that you would be a little bit, indifferent to that. They're banking on that. You can no longer be indifferent to that. Multi-factor authentication, that matters. You have to enter every software with it, no matter what software it is, especially those critical accounts. Companies are pushing that and making that mandatory, thank goodness, but it's another layer that we add to protect ourselves. And that the companies are trying to do, software companies are trying to do, but we have to also enable it. We have to follow it. They can say it till they're blue in the face, but lead a horse to water concept, right? You have to follow it and use it with all your accounts. It is the only way for you to know you're accessing that account and when someone else is accessing that account. When you're getting a text that says, oh, here's the Amazon verification code, and you're like, but I didn't log into Amazon, then you go, okay, that's a problem, right? So then it's not you. So thank goodness that will tell you your account is about to be compromised, and you can at least say, I can delete that. I don't have to verify that, and you're safe, right? Now, Wi-Fi, I would say about Wi-Fi, just think about what you're doing on Wi-Fi when you're at a hotel, a coffee shop, airport. Just don't do anything that's confidential. So use your phone hotspot if you need to, because Wi-Fi can be really taken over by a threat actor. It's really easy to do. It's easy software tools to do to be able to pretend that they're, Calgary Airport Wi-Fi or Starbucks Wi-Fi. So be very aware of Wi-Fi and follow those best practices. Just be a little paranoid is what I would say. Now, I would also say, do you believe in all communication coming into you? One is I would recommend secure texting app. I would be very cautious of IMs on social media because they have many deep fakes, many fake messages. I've seen a company I worked with where they were targeted through this whole HR debacle of like someone trying to get hired through that company and communicating with a marketing guy. It was convoluted on a level I couldn't believe it, and just about convincing, but it was on LinkedIn. And so luckily this gentleman was like, why is this person reaching out to me with HR employee forms when I'm the marketing guy? I am not the hiring guy. And first of all, does a company do hiring and document forms through LinkedIn? Never. Do it through their own company, right? You do your hiring process through your own forms and through your own secure applications. So that's a red flag when someone's trying to target you by saying, well, I got this form from my HR manager. Can you help me why your HR manager is not responding to me? That's not your business. So just remember, they're going to target you in all ways that you would least expect it. And it's not your business. You can delete them because they look like real accounts. And when I was researching this and working through this use case with this company, they were using real HR employees, and they took over their LinkedIn account, and that employee did not know that HR manager's account was taken over by a hacker. That's how sophisticated they are. So follow your company's communication processes, always, always, no matter what they are. Don't ever let some external person, employee, vendor, or stranger circumvent that. Ever, ever, from now on. So when you have incoming calls, what they're able to do now is they're able to pretend that they are one of your vendors. They can spoof that phone number. So that's really easy. So you have to ask yourself, do you know the person who's contacting you? And are you expecting that phone call? Because sometimes you think, oh, okay, I guess I have to do that because they're asking that of me. Oh, we have to have this vendor account verified. Can you change this information for us because we gave it to you wrong? You name it, whatever they're going to say. We have to change these HR records. We have to change this. Whatever it is, you have to start asking yourself questions like, do I know that person? Does this request seem odd? If you're not sure, then you can nicely say, I'm sorry, can I call you back? I'll get that information to you shortly. And then that's where you can hang up before you get sucked into their tactics and go verify with your manager or any other employee for that matter. And the more you communicate with your team the better you'll be able to kind of be us against them. Because no one from any organization, from yours especially, vendor, bank, no one will ever make you feel any sense of doubt or panic about a request. No one. So if they're saying, well, we have to do this now, you have to ask yourself, why the urgency? I have to do this today. Why the urgency? You have to do it. Why just me? Right? So you have to understand they're going to press on you and they're going to make you doubt. But that's the thing. That's when you have to step back and go, wow, this is over the top. My boss would never make me feel this way. No vendor, no bank. So just realize these are the human tactics they're coming to manipulate you with, believe it or not. So we're calling them scammers. But at the end of the day, they're sophisticated nation state organizations using this crime as a service to be able to steal money from you, your company, even your grandma, even your mom. So there's no difference now. And so here's another example. Haley, can I just ask you quickly, did you hear the last video?
No, I couldn't hear the audio in the last video.
Okay. All right. So then we'll have to skip this one. I'll share this with you through the chat if I can. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to have a safe code word with your team, because these spoofed phone numbers, spoofed vendors, and really asinine requests need you as an employee, especially new ones, you need to onboard them with a safe word, a code word, so that if you have a random inquiry that they think is from a teammate or a vendor, and they're not sure if they should comply, they can just say, hey, what's the code word? What's the safe word? And like, no, I don't have time for that. Just give me that information. Then you know you're being targeted and you can just hang up. But if you're too uncomfortable with asking for a safe code word, then just say, sorry, I'll call you back. And then go back to your team member who you think that's from. Because again, because we're remote, because we work in different places all over the world, and because we have offices in different places in the world, one could easily pick up a phone and say, hey, I need this information because so-and-so told me I need to get this from you. Well, is that true? Don't ever feel a sense of, I have to do this because I got asked by a manager over a phone call, because this is what they're relying on. And can you believe we're in this type of a climate where I actually have to say that to you? You can't believe a phone call. You can't believe a phone call. You need to be kind and gentle with yourself, but with your employees, and you have to be able to say, we have to protect each other. We have to be aware that this is actually happening, and it may increase exponentially, but either way, we have to be prepared for it. Sooner you're prepared for it, the more you can handle it with ease. And then you can just go, yeah, just got another fake one. I just hung up. And not take it personally, because no offense, but there are serious organizations out there that are being set up to do just this. They don't care about you. They care about what they can get from you. Okay. So even though they may sound nice, they may sound sincere, and they may sound genuine, that is what they're hired to do. So they can steal anything they can from you, whatever that is that they want. I took a call, and that was interesting. I took a call this week, and I thought I would just play along. And as I'm telling you the story, you can just use this poll, answer this poll that Haley has given you. And it was something about my Amazon purchase. And just so you know, I don't usually purchase things on Amazon, so I knew this was fake. So I pressed 1. And a dude from India picked up the phone, and you could hear all the chitter chatter in the back, but the dude from India was the red flag as well, because there's organizations that are hiring, they call scam compounds, and they're in India, Cambodia, they're on these different places, and they're endorsed by China. And they have all these criminal organizations kind of setting up scam compounds in Cambodia, for example. So they're calling me, and he goes, how can I help you? I go, well, I don't know. How can you help me? You are the one that called me. He goes, well, what do you need? I go, you're calling me. I don't understand what you're talking about. You're calling me. What do you want? He goes, well, did you and then he stammered. He didn't know what to do because I threw it in his face. Now, again, don't try this at home. I was being a little bit of a risk taker here. I wanted to find out what was happening, but I'll tell you, this is how quick they are. So he quickly figured out what was happening, and he goes, "Oh, okay, so did you get a verification code on your phone?" I said, "Yeah." I pick up my phone. I look at my phone, and he goes, "Okay, you should have got an Amazon one." I said, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "What is it?" And I go, "Oh, okay. So you will log onto your Amazon, you do MFA. Well, when you look at your Amazon account, you can log in with your phone number, and then you can get a prompting MFA account." Well, what they're doing is they're taking my phone number. They're trying to log into the Amazon account, use credentials, and then they have to do the MFA prompt. So they called me and they got that account. They got that, they want to get that MFA number. Now, luckily, if you see on the MFA prompt from your text, it says, "We do not call you for this number." So you can see he was trying to call me for the number. And then he hung up really quickly. That's all he wanted. So he could get into my Amazon account. So your head spins and you just go, wow, like you're just calling just to be able to get this. So this other thing is what I also want to emphasize is never, ever keep your credit card information on any of your accounts, shopping accounts, food accounts, anything. Remove all your credit cards from any of your softwares, because if they do get into an account like your Amazon account, not through that method, but just through stealing your credentials through other means, then they won't get anything from you because you aren't storing confidential information there either. Like the fact that you bought shoes last month doesn't matter, but they can't use your credit card to make other purchases. Because again, we don't know what they're going to do with the information they have, but they're trying to get it from you any which way they can. So I found that interesting. So they didn't succeed, but it was just interesting that was all that was the phone call, just to be able to steal my MFA number. So you have to be very diligent. For example, I just think, you should just delete every incoming call and not answer any of it. That would be my take, because that's where we're at nowadays, but it's up to you. So you could close the poll. So it seems like 76% of you do not have a code word. So I guess I would ask that maybe after you leave this meeting, your next team meeting, you guys talk about that, or your next company meeting, you talk about that. So these are some key takeaways. Use your daily password manager daily, set up your critical accounts with MFA, and then don't share it with anyone when they call you. And then take 5 seconds to verify. So these don't take long. I need you to know, password manager doesn't take long. MFA doesn't take long, 10 seconds. Assume you're a target. Be ready for that. Wake up every day knowing you're the target. What incoming communication is coming to you that you can go pause, verify, pause, verify, pause, verify. It's okay. Your boss will love the fact that you're verifying versus, oh, I feel rushed, I have to. And then I want to emphasize how easy it is to fix this problem. Delete the incoming message. Do not answer the incoming phone call. Delete the text. That's all you have to do. They're going to throw phishing campaigns like a net. They're going to catch you through text, phone, email, IM, social media. Just delete it. You don't have to do anything extravagant. You don't have to report it. Obviously, your company has a report and a spam in your email, and you can do it through your personal Gmail and all of those options. You can do that, and through your phone, you can do that, but also just delete it. You don't have to go any further than that, just to simplify this incoming barrage of communication that you're getting that is not real. So with that being said, I was wondering if any of you had any questions that I could clarify and dig into a little bit more before we close out the session.